Hello again, viewers of Geeky Glasses TV. I'm here once more, the Ginger Geek, with another review. This one's going to take on a bit of a different format. It's going to be kind of an unscripted discussion. That's because it's a review of Hyrule Warriors, and I'm playing it and reviewing it with someone else. Myself, being a massive Zelda fan, to the point where I have the Gate of Time tattooed on my back like a little dweeb, and here with Big GJ, who has
never even picked up a Zelda game. Hey, Geeky Glasses TV people.
Yeah, I think your biggest exposure to Zelda actually comes through Super Smash Brothers. Like, that's about it. You've had maybe 20 minutes of the Wind Waker that are forced upon you.
Yeah, and then it got stolen off me by a mutual friend, and then I immediately forgot about the 20 minutes I played, so I've really only ever heard of the legend, if you will, of the Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, and what a legend it is. So basically, today we're going to both review the game, which came out yesterday, and we've been playing pretty much non-stop since it came out to really get it completely into our head, what it's about, talk about it fully, give a few opinions on that. But obviously I'm going to be talking from the perspective of a fan of the series, and Jamie as being somebody who's never followed the series before.
Just before we start, though, obviously it kind of goes without saying with what Dan has already said, but spoiler warning here, we're going to have a fairly free-form discussion, so any spoilers from any of the Zelda series could come up. Obviously, we're going to be discussing Hyrule Warriors in depth, so if you haven't played it and you do care about the story of it, or like gameplay, or some such, spoiler warning there as well.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it minimal. I'm not going to talk about how, I don't know, Wind Waker ended in the finale fight, but there might be a few plot points arise and stuff like that. So first things first, I'll ask you this, Jamie, because this will be quite easy for you to answer. But what were your general thoughts of this game, ignoring the fact that it's got a Zelda license, which should be pretty easy for you because that means nothing to you anyway?
Yeah, well, generally the game I find is it's pretty good. I like it. It's got some fairly good combat. Obviously, you can't really talk about the gameplay of it without drawing the massive parallel to Dynasty Warriors. But I've always had a bit of a sweet spot for those games, in particular when played with friends or just in the room with other people. I've always found them a lot of fun to play multiplayer, and we've sort of played a lot together. So I had a lot of fun with it. The animations were very, very slick. The game looks just brilliant, really. Obviously, I'm not up to scratch with what all of the set designs are, but I hear that it's all recreated fairly consistent with the games that it's based on. But even taking away from that, looks amazing. All the character animations are really slick. The gameplay is pretty. It's a lot of fun. It's still, you can mow down. I think within 10 minutes would mow down about 1,000 troops.
Yeah, it's pretty. You can just go in and slay every. It's the exact opposite of kind of what Zelda was, which I sort of have my issues with that. But my sort of general thoughts on the game, and I'm trying my best here to ignore completely that it was a Zelda license. I'm not sure it's any good. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy playing it. But I find personally that I can enjoy almost anything multiplayer. Like Earth Defense Force 2017's one of my favourite games to play with a friend. I could not play that alone, and I've always kind of felt the exact same way about Dynasty Warriors games, and this is far more a Dynasty Warriors game than it is a Zelda game. So much more Dynasty Warriors than it is a Zelda.
But as a Dynasty Warriors game, does that succeed?
As a Dynasty Warriors game, it succeeds on all levels, because it's probably, and I don't know if this even means anything since I kind of dislike the franchise fairly immensely, but it's the best Dynasty Warriors game I've ever played. Right. It's similar to all the others, to the point where 90% of the content's the same, albeit with a different skin. But it does add some new stuff
Oh yeah, there are a few additions.
From what I can gather, I mean, I haven't played a Dynasty Warriors game since 5, and I think they're into 9 now. But again, that's not that long ago because they bring out like 10 a year. So, but yeah, I've dabbled in a couple of them. It's not something that I actively pursue getting each title. But there did seem to be things that were new to the franchise that had been sort of introduced in Hyrule Warriors that weren't present in the other games. Am I correct in you've played more of them recently? There was some stuff.
From what I can remember of the Dynasty Warriors games I've played as well, that is true, yeah.
Like specifically the items. There was no items in the... Not in this sort of treasure chest switch on the fly kind of thing.
Oh yeah, like in Dynasty Warriors you have the you have the pots and stuff around that you can get upgrades for, but as far as what I can remember, you don't have the bombs, for example, in Zelda, the boomerangs, the bow and arrows.
Yeah, like it sort of used the Zelda license like to kind of introduce
the hook shots,
new mechanics. Yeah, the hook shots.
But you can hook shot a moon.
Yeah, which is something I'll also have to bring up because okay, so yeah, as a Dynasty Warriors game, it succeeds. It's just unfortunate that I'm not particularly a fan of Dynasty Warriors game.
Then we have to come on to this then. As a Zelda game, as a Dynasty Warriors game using the Zelda license, how do you feel? Does the inclusion of the Zelda license enhance the game? What's your opinions?
It's a real tricky one to answer that because it does enhance the game for me. In that it makes it the only reason I would play it. So in that sense, it does enhance the game, at least for me. But it uses the Zelda license on pretty much a game that I'm not even sure should exist. I'm still in two minds about it. I'm going to talk about that in sort of a bit. But, I mean, as a Dynasty Warriors game, with a Zelda skin, it succeeds on every level. Like, if I wanted to play a Dynasty Warriors game and I wanted Zelda characters in it, this is ideal. This is perfect. You know, it's better than the other Dynasty Warriors game. I'm pretty sure there's like more enemies on screen from what I played of the others. You seem to kill a lot quicker in this one. I don't know if that's the case. Would you think?
It seems that way, though. That again might be memory serving me poorly here. It seems like it's a bit more faster paced. Like
yeah, which is helps in a pretty fast paced action game.
Yeah.
But as a Zelda game, and I realize it's not a main title, but as a Zelda game, it sort of feels like on a monumental, like it couldn't have failed harder. You know what I mean? Unless it was the CDI games, like that's the kind of standard, because it's just not Zelda, like not even remotely. Like if they pitched this game to us as like, oh, it's gonna be a bit more Zelda-y take on Dynasty Warriors, which they kind of did, which I think was like slightly wrong of them because it's sort of not. Like, yeah, they've used the Zelda license to effectively put in new mechanics. Treasure chests are in the game. You open up the treasure chests, you get items, you can then use those items in combat, and there's boss battles, which that I thought that was cool. The boss battles, that was new.
There was a lot of, you got a lot of interesting combat out of the boss battles with it. In particular, just out of the first level, you come across a massive dragon that you have to.
Dodongo, Jamie, God, get it right.
You come across what he just said, and you get interesting combat from that apparently as well. The mechanics from killing that are also
they're like ripped straight from the game. Yeah. So like Ocarina of Time, when you go to Death Mountain, you fight the King Dodongo. As any Ocarina of Time fan, I'll tell you, the way to kill it is you make it eat the bombs. They actually implement that into the game, rather than a sort of strategic puzzle where you have to like time your placement of the bombs so that the Dodongo will eat them. It's more still very action based in that you just throw a million other things into his mouth whenever it's open. But it was cool. It was cool that they sort of ripped that sequence from the game. It was definitely paying homage to his original appearance in Ocarina of Time. Similarly, you at one point fight Gorma, which is the Queen Gorma is in Ocarina of Time. Again, one of the more famous Zelda titles, probably the most famous. In the first dungeon, which is the Deku Tree, the final boss of that is this. I mean, when I say Gorma, you probably don't remember what it is, but it's the big arachnid thing with the eye, the massive eye.
Oh, that thing, yeah.
Yeah, in the Ocarina of Time, you slingshot it in the eye to stun it, then slash its eye.
And in this game, you fire an arrow into its eye. And
it's sort of very similar kind of stuff. And I like that. That was cool.
You like all the homages throughout the game to Zelda, and there are a lot of them.
Oh yeah. I love the homage. I love the touches. I love the look, it's that character. Yeah, it's fun. It's in that kind of like sort of just playing to fandom kind of way. I mean, it's that kind of. It's not like Super Smash Brothers levels of depth where they really flesh them out to all be like that own individual, unique sort of identity. But that there, and
it's cool that they are.
It's cool that they are. Yeah, like Link uses his sword. Midna uses a hair with the hand that forms out of it, and that's cool. She rides a wolf. It's all sort of like they capture like a little bit of the essence of what makes the characters so unique, but they do still kind of play the same.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So ultimately, then using Zelda to enhance Dynasty Warriors, you would say that it has in from a fan's perspective.
Yes.
You were enjoying this game much more because it as a Dynasty Warriors game because it is Zelda than if it wasn't.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's a problem.
Right.
Because I enjoyed this game. I did. I enjoyed it because we're playing multiplayer though.
Yeah.
I know you left for a point, and playing it single player was still kind of fun for us because I was, seeing, oh look, it's Fi from Skyward Sword. Oh, sorry, Fi. Oh look, it's Agatha from Twilight Princess and stuff like that. That was cool, but it was kind of a slog at times.
Yeah.
Really repetitive. It still has all the flaws the Dynasty Warriors has.
Yeah.
They haven't got rid of those. They haven't fixed it. They haven't revolutionized the Dynasty Warriors formula. Reinvented that old brilliant gem into something new. It's a Dynasty Warriors game, and that's the problem, because I feel like I only enjoyed this because it had a Zelda license on, and that's bad.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Do you feel maybe like cheated into buying it a bit?
A little bit, because like, say for example Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Swap that out to, I don't know, Pac-Man Kart, but it's the exact same game reskinned. Still a fantastic game.
Right.
Swap it out to, I don't know, cereal characters like the Cocoa Pops monkey. It's like, yeah, you know what I mean? Just mascots racing. Yeah. But if they were racing on the exact same tracks, just reskinned, with the exact same mechanics and physics and stuff, Mario Kart 8, for example, because that's my favourite, still fantastic. Whatever skin's laid on it.
Right.
Had this not had a Zelda skin, I don't think I'd even cared enough to consider picking it up.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's bad. You know what I mean? And I think that means something for Nintendo, which we'll sort of get onto in a bit.
So let's go to a bit more in depth with Hyrule Warriors. Then, obviously, Hyrule Warriors being non-canon, they've come up with a whole new, for lack of a better word, fan fiction story to get all of these characters into one big game and go crazy killing one another. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Now, the story to me means nothing. These characters doing this thing, quite frankly, if you told me this was completely within the canon of Legend of Zelda, I would have no point of reference to disagree with you. I wouldn't have thought it was, but I couldn't have told you why. So it obviously is completely sort of fanfic, isn't it? What do you think about this story?
It's trying to say it without swearing, just so you don't have to censor it.
So it's
crap. It's utter crap. It's so just uninteresting and bland and pointless. Like, basically, they need an excuse to get all of these sort of different generations of Zelda characters together in one universe. So they pull this whole, there's a big portal opens through time and all the worlds end up connected. And it's like, alright, that's fine. I can deal with that. And it'd be fine if like it just acted as a vehicle and like they weren't trying with the story. But what's weird is I felt they somewhat kind of tried, and that made it worse. Because they introduced this new character, Sia and Lana, and they're established as sisters pretty early on. It's kind of a minor spoiler, but basically there's this witch. She oversees the Triforce through all of history, and it's like that's the fanfic thing for me. They've introduced this new character who apparently oversaw the Triforce through all of history, which is, you know, a big thing in the Zelda universe. Yeah. And that's just not true. this person has never been present for any of these events. Like, it's like, I mean, the closest thing I can think is like, I'm pretty sure like one of the new Dragon Ball Z games pretty much has a fan fiction mode where you make an original character and then suddenly he's there for like all of the moments throughout the Dragon Ball Z universe. Like, it's basically create a character and then that character is like, yeah, he was totally there when Goku fought Cell. Like, it's just in the background, you know, just chilling. And that's a very fan fiction-y thing to do.
And you sure Sia definitely wasn't at all of these big moments. She wasn't just one of the little extras in the background.
She's completely new, and yet apparently she was present for all of Zelda's history. And that was kind of like, because they tried to explain it too much, it made it like it was obvious it wasn't canon. And I know that it doesn't really matter. Like. Some people don't even play Zelda games for the plot of universe. I mean, I more play it for the gameplay, but over time I have become completely engrossed in the universe to the point where I've got like this argument that it's as relevant to fantasy as a genre as, say, Tolkien's Lord of the Rings was back in the day. But that's a whole different video subject. Yeah. But I've become like somewhat engrossed, and to do that, like, introduce this new character who, by the way, terribly designed. What the hell was that?
Boobs McGee.
Yeah. Like, who created that? The like, character designing for Ivy from Soul Calibur? Because that was stupid.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, in relation to characters I'm within the Zelda universe, her twin sister, whatever other is, you think actually fits quite well.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. The two new characters, well, actually, there's a couple of new characters. There's a couple of, like, evil characters, what's he called? Zargos or something? Not Zargos. That makes him sound like a retail store. And Zar something, I don't remember, but he's basically like a dragon knight thing, and he's kind of new, and he sort of fits the universe. Looks a bit generic, but kind of fits the universe. But Lana's character design and sort of presence within the narrative, it's like, she's kind of cool. Like, you know, she looks like she's been designed for a Zelda game. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see her in Twilight Princess had she been in. But Sia just doesn't fit in with the character design at all. It's like Tecmo Koei made Sia and Nintendo made Lana. And I'm not sure if that was the case, actually. I'm not sure if that was the artists, one was from Koei and one was from Nintendo. I'd be interested to see that, but like, my god, just, the boobs are ridiculous. Like, and they just don't fit in. Like, it's really weird seeing Link fight just massive boob lady. Like, she looks like she belongs in a MMORPG. She looks like she belongs in an MMO where the armor gets progressively less as you level up. Like, she looks like a really high-level MMO player, and she just doesn't fit the universe at all. I mean, like, the rest of us fine. Like, she's got, like, a sort of cool mask and stuff. But
yeah, even coming in from a non-fan's perspective of this, her presence in the first cutscene did take me aback a little. Where from everything else that I've seen, where people not exactly. Well, even to a point where most characters dress fairly conservatively.
Yeah, I mean, Zelda's clothed. You know what I mean? All Zelda characters have generally been clothed. I mean, like, off the top of my head, I can think I think, like, some people will think like I'm being petty and minor here, but I think that's important. Like, I think the universe has been represented, you know, pretty positively in terms of like how it represents sexualization and stuff, and sexuality, and because I mean, it's not like that opposed to revealing a bit of skin. For example, the Gerudos, which you won't know, but they are like a valley of they are like a gang of sort of women thieves, and they exist in Gerudo Valley, and they wear pretty much a bra.
Okay.
However, they are in a desert like environment. They wear less. It makes sense. It's not a sexualized thing. It's like they wear clothes according to the environment, and I mean it gives a consistency to the universe. The Gerudos dress lightly, whereas if you go to like the sort of icy tops in Twilight Princess, I can't remember what they're called now, but there's a female character again whose name I can't remember, and she's kind of pretty much dressed like an Eskimo,
right.
For lack of a better word. And like it gives a consistency to the universe, and it makes like the places feel real. That each place has their own sort of fashion and style, and none of them are ridiculous and stupid. Right. And then suddenly, just tits. Like where they come from and why are they here? Like it's just it just kind of like, I mean, it's not as bad as what other did for sort of Nintendo's representation of the female characters, taking that sort of most iconic female character, most empowered, and just sort of shattering.
Yeah, making her completely subservient to a man.
yeah, really taken away from a character. Because at least they're doing it this time to somebody who's, new and made up. But I don't think that makes it okay. Like, it's kind of... I don't know, like, maybe I'm being a bit too picky on that one, but that really kind of bugged me.
Okay, well, considering this is a completely fanfic, for lack of a better term, or in this case, in completely appropriate term, story that they've made up here, and that it is completely not canon, do you feel that the fact that this story exists and that you don't really like it, has this story like taken away anything from the actual Legend of Zelda series?
I don't think so.
Right.
And I don't think the game has either.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a lot of sort of hate for it on like forums and online before it even came out. And I was always skeptical of like, is this going to be good? I don't think so. This is bad. This is bad, guys. But like some people are going on like it was, the coming of the apocalypse. Oh my god, they ruined Zelda. They're going to ruin it all. Like, just kill it now. Why don't you put a bullet in Nintendo's head and just leave them out to die because they're done. And that's not the case.
Right.
That's not the case at all. Like, even if you dislike this game like immensely, even if it's like a 0 out of 10 for you, it doesn't ruin Zelda.
Right.
You know what I mean? Chocobo Racing didn't ruin Final Fantasy. Mario Sports Mix doesn't take away from how amazing Mario Galaxy is. It's the same as that, if the CDI games didn't kill Zelda, like, this ain't gonna.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
It's a spin-off game, though. And I do think that's interesting, because I think that means something for Nintendo. I mean, you're not the biggest sort of Nintendo fan, and not at all a Zelda fan, but like even you thought this was kind of weird that they did this. Like, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's odd. I'm not sure, because Nintendo have obviously made these sort of, well, not this sort of game, but they've made games that have made me go before like what, like when Mario decides to forget the Mushroom Kingdom for a minute and go to the Olympics with Sonic. It's a go race the fastest person in the universe.
But Mario kind of works like that, because Mario's the Mickey Mouse. Mario's like the big mascot. He can just kind of do anything. He's just kind of an icon that you can just sort of copy and paste.
That is a fair point. But even to then, that like it didn't sort of confuse me. I thought like, oh yeah, I can see this happening. But obviously there's a bit of precedent with Nintendo doing sort of quote odd things with their characters. But this took me by surprise. This came out of left field, and I realised, quite honestly, the first time I heard about a Dynasty Warriors Zelda game, I thought my friend that told me about it was joking. I thought it was just.
I mean, I told people there was one coming out, and they were like, "Is it fan made?"
Yeah.
I mean, it was like at one point we were playing the game, and our friend even came in, and they were like, they didn't know what it was, and they're like, "Is this fan made?"
Exactly. Yeah. People thought like one of our friends saw the physical game, and their first thought was, "Oh, Jesus, a mod's putting a lot of effort into this." It's really sort of strange. I'm not entirely sure what it does mean for Nintendo. Clearly, there's something going on where they're prepared to take a bit more risks, because I wouldn't have seen this coming. Hell, a week before this was announced, I wouldn't have seen this coming.
Well, yeah. I mean, nobody saw it coming. When it was announced, everybody was like, "What? Like, what is this? And why?" I think why was a big question. Why was a big question for me. Here's the thing. I think it's. Do you know what? I honestly think, and it pains us to say this because I did enjoy it, and it's a Zelda title, but I quite honestly think it's a pretty bad game. Honestly, if I had to be like, is it bad or good? It's like, it's bad. It's repetitive. It's grindy. You know, you have to go through pretty much same levels again. I mean, you didn't see that, but like adventure mode, which was good. Adventure mode was kind of good because it was something different. In that, like, there's the main mode, which is the story, and that's just slashy levels. And then, like, adventure mode gives you sort of little challenges that change the rules of the game. For example, like, everybody dies in one hit and kill 10 generals, stuff like that. But when, like, the same stages as the Legend mode, and it's just, like, I don't know, I felt a bit, you know, phoned in. Just like... Oh, we need something extra. Change the rules of that level. Yeah, that'll do. You know what I mean? And it was like, there was nice touches. There was some really nice touches. Like, again, to talk about adventure mode, the main map is sort of all done in the original Legend of Zelda sprite style. And they've actually done new sprites to represent each of the characters that were never in that game. And you have to, like, kind of, like, move across a map, and you get, like, you get sort of secrets that you pick up from winning, stuff that helps you solve puzzles in like the previous Zelda games. Can find hidden items in this. So for example, there'll be a space marked that's with like, oh, there's a hidden item in this space, and the space is like a bit of Zelda map, if you will, with all of the sprites in place, and like one of the trees is glowing, and you can choose to use a candle on that tree, and that you'll burn the tree and reveal the secret passage, and like, oh, now when you beat this stage you get a new item and stuff. Which is cool, and it could have done with a lot more of that. I mean, the back of the box says like, oh, solve puzzles with items, and it's like, nah. Like that's just a lie, because, you know, people who play Zelda are like, oh, I solve puzzles in Zelda game, this'll be like a Zelda game. And it's not, like, what puzzles? Explain to me which, like, we played through, like, the entire game, there is nothing puzzly about it,
unless it's like, you know, add bombs to shatterable brick, get through passageway. That's the
like, there's nothing, there's no head scratching moments in this. There's no feeling of reward when you're like, oh, thank God I solved how to like hit that enemy in the face really hard with a sword. Like, that was a tricky one. You know what I mean? That's just a barefaced lie on the back of the box, and that's kind of shameless.
Or they are using the sort of the most obvious word, like, actually no,
stretching the connotations of what
stretching
puzzle
the
is.
word puzzle to the absolute limit.
Aye, and the whole thing feels kind of shameless. But I don't think it's a bad thing for Nintendo necessarily.
Right.
It hasn't ruined the franchise, as I've already said. It hasn't at all, because the new Zelda coming out looks amazing. Oh my god! Like,
and I'm sure that when people pick it up and play that, at no point, if they're really liking the game, they're going to be going through that and playing it and thinking, "Oh god, this would be my favorite game. If not for that, not for Hyrule Warriors.
Hyrule Warriors has totally spoiled this whole experience for me." Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Right.
And Link Between Worlds, the last proper Zelda game they put out, was, oh my god, incredible. Skyward Sword was a bit of a misstep for me, but, you know, a lot of people liked it. It was, you know, really highly regarded. Generally, the series is outputting at an incredibly high standard, and I don't think that's going to decline anytime soon. But this one's a weird one in that it's a spin-off, and they don't really do spin-off Zelda games. I mean, the closest thing you've got is, like, the Four Swords games, which you'll not know, but they're like Four Swords, the first one was a pack-in with they ported the SNES game Link to the Past to Game Boy, and as an extra incentive, they put in a multiplayer Zelda game. And that's pretty cool, because it's just an extra little additive.
Yeah.
And then they actually did a sequel to that for the GameCube, which was kind of gimmicky, but actually a lot of fun. It was more to sort of sell the idea of Game Boy Advance connectivity.
Right.
So each one of you would play with a Game Boy Advance, and you would like come off the television screen, like if you went into a cave, and then you'd appear on your Game Boy Advance screen. So like some people would be on the big screen, some people on the little screens, and you had to kind of like that was cool. But like spin-offs generally don't happen. Not full-fledged games anyway.
Right.
There's a couple of like Link's crossbow training. You know what I mean? It's not a real full game. This one's the first sort of big attempt at that, besides the Four Swords, and it's sort of stranger still than Four Swords because Nintendo didn't develop it. This is quite clearly a Tecmo Koei game. It reeks of Tecmo Koei, and the thing about that is a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's a terrible thing," because Nintendo are quite happy to give that sort of license out to. I mean, I don't want to say this like is a definite thing, but I would think it's generally considered that Tecmo Koei are much worse developers than Nintendo. Like that's probably an assumption that a lot of people hold. I would say.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I mean it's if you look like say if you look at the kind of the standard of games at the output. Even as somebody not that big of a fan of Nintendo, I'd put Nintendo's games above it. Really.
Yeah, I mean they're not awful. They've got an audience and they're capable of making a really good game. Like I really love Bladestorm and Kessen.
We're not saying they're bad by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I'm just saying Nintendo generally output at a higher quality, and a lot of people were taken aback at the idea that Nintendo, who have this reputation, would give the highest standard of their titles. Like I would say most people put Zelda above Mario in terms of quality. That's maybe for debate, but Zelda generally considered by a lot of people to be the greatest game series of all time, myself included. And giving it the Tecmo Koei, that's weird and unusual. And why are you doing that? And but I mean, it does represent them taking risks, and I think more than anything, it represents them sort of coming back to targeting the sort of core gamer audience. Obviously, with the Wii, the target was casual. You know what I mean? And I think they're coming back to the core gamer thing because they did not make this with your granny playing it in mind.
No. Not.
It's not even a good game, but it's very much a core gamer's game.
Mm.
Very action heavy, very slashy, in your face, over the top. The animation is so sort of I mean, I fangirled out at a couple of them, but they're very much 13-year-old, oh, that's so badass, man. Look how cool that is, and stuff like that.
Yeah, one of the standouts there in my mind is that and a few levels in, if you get the treasure chest, Link gets a fire wand, and one of the sort of weak point animations is that he just makes a colossal fire ball on the end of it and just shoots it straight into the enemy's face.
Yeah, and it's
a shotgun effect.
It's over the top and it's silly, but it's fun and my mom's not going to get any enjoyment out of that. She couldn't care if Link sends a giant shotgun of flamethrower into the face of a moblin or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a core gamer audience there that really do. And I mean, all the Zelda games have been targeted towards core gamers, but the representation that they're currently giving the Zelda series with this title, it represents them, being more willing to take risks. I feel, well, this one I would say probably hasn't paid off for them. It sort of represents them experimenting with can we work with other developers?
Yeah.
What else can our licenses do? Can we do something a bit different? And sort of targeting a more core audience of, well, we're going to make a game that gamers are going to play. You know what I mean?
And ultimately, do you think that's a good thing?
I think that's a good thing. I don't think this game was necessarily a good thing, but I think it's a step towards them doing better things. I mean, you can see it even with the new Smash Brothers. That's not strictly Nintendo in-house developed. Namco developed it with them. And I thought that I was scared of that at the time. But from what I've played of the demo of that, and from people who've got early copies, that's meant to be amazing. You know what I mean? And that's a good thing. And I mean, I don't know if this means we're going to see, like, Zelda X Capcom anytime soon. But it could do. And that's sort of enticing. That's exciting. I mean, they're doing a lot more. They are sort of taking risks more with the franchise. Look at the Mario Kart 8 DLC. They're basically making it a Super Smash Kart by putting, Zelda in that. But at the same time, I don't know if they're throwing around, like, their best franchise too much.
Right.
Like, because they did the Mario Kart 8 thing, it's like, oh, that's cool. And then they did the Dynasty Warriors thing, and it's like, that's less cool. Like, I'm really hoping we're not going to get, like, Link Goes Bowling, Link Party 8, Link Power Tennis, Zelda Sports Mix. Like, I'm hoping those aren't around the corner, and they're just, this is perhaps a step into them not taking risks so much as using the Zelda franchise as a cash cow.
Right.
Because at the same time, like, while I'm saying, oh, this is a really good thing, like, I have also said this was a bad game.
Yeah.
But I did buy it.
Yeah.
Because it was a Zelda game.
Okay, well then let's just focus on that for a moment then. Ultimately, the sort of question becomes, with all the discussion we've had about Zelda and the game and that, mostly it sort of boils down to, is it worth buying? Like, you have purchased this game and you have played it, and we have talked a lot about it. Is it worth buying?
Do you know what? No. Not for the price it is at the moment. Like, I'd pay a $5 for a Dynasty Warriors game. I shouldn't pay an extra 30 quid for that. Like, I paid 35 for this. I'd pay a $5 for a Dynasty Warriors game. I paid 35 for this. 30 quid for a Zelda skin. I shouldn't be paying that. Like, I wouldn't have paid it if it was anything else. Like, I didn't buy the One Piece game. Or the Gundam ones. Or the Fist of the North Star Dynasty Warriors. Because I wasn't interested in those licenses.
Yeah.
But because it was Zelda, oh yeah, I'll totally pay 35 quid for that. And that's bad. And perhaps I'm the problem there. Like, I shouldn't endorse them doing this, because, like, the more people do this, the more they'll be like, Hyrule Warriors 2! And, like, that's not what I want.
Alright, yeah.
I mean, it was cool to see sort of all the Zelda characters interacting in the same world, and it was cool to see like, big battles, because the universe of Zelda has always kind of been a big battle-heavy thing in terms of the lore, but you never really see massive wars or anything. Like, if you look at the lore, there's lots of them happen, but you never really see any of that. They're kind of alluded to. So at least they picked a franchise that made sense. Like, this isn't Metroid Warriors. You know what I mean? This isn't, like, play as Samus and Samus, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't, like, they've at least picked one that sort of fits the theme and motif of the Dynasty Warriors thing. But, like, it's not great. It's, like, it's got some nice little nods for fans, like the sprite art, even the loading screens are kind of cool. All the character animations are great. Like, the presentation is phenomenal. Presentation's a 9 out of 10. But the gameplay is, like, a 7 play if you're playing co-op, like a 3 if you're playing alone. I mean, what would you buy this game? Like, as a non-Zelda fan, but as somebody who can kind of have fun with the Dynasty Warriors title?
From what I've played of it, I sort of agree with you. No, I wouldn't. The Zelda skin to me means nothing.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, that detracts from
yeah, to a degree. Yeah, it's. I mean, I can. From a non-Zelda standpoint, it's nothing really there that would make me go out of my way to buy it at full price. Like, similarly, I might pick it up as a curiosity piece when it goes down in price, like, significantly.
Yeah,
just to see.
But it's a Nintendo title, so it never will.
Yeah, so, ever. But as a full price purchase, no way. It's there wouldn't be anywhere close to a must-buy for me.
Okay, well, as a non-Zelda fan, has it in any way made you more interested in playing the Zelda titles?
To a degree, yes. Actually, slightly shockingly, although this may also my answer here may also come with a grain of salt, because I've played it with Dan multiplayer quite a bit, and whilst going through the game, there were little snippets where a new character would appear, or we'd go to a new level, and the first 5 minutes of us playing that level would be Dan telling me about how this interacts with the actual main canon, and that is somewhat interesting. Like, some of the character designs I found very, very, very interesting about just like why they are and like how they fit into their own universe. Some characters I've just been interested into seeing like why they're enemies, like how they've come about. But mostly I think it's if you've never played a Zelda game before, and if you have a friend that is obsessed with Zelda, play this game with them and then constantly ask them questions, and by the end of it you're kind of really interested in a lot of the characters. I mean, one of the main levels, what was it? The guy with the main hammer, the guy with the big hammer.
Oh, Darunia.
Yeah, Darunia. You were really, really annoyed, or to a degree, that he was a villain.
That really annoyed me.
Yeah, and because he got that upset about it, I couldn't help but be really interested in why he's annoyed about him a villain, and then more learning about him. Now I'm like interested in see how he actually is in the game that he turns up into.
Yeah, that's a point I haven't actually brought up. Actually, they do a lot of things wrong as well as right. Like there's an entire sequence where you play as like Sheik or Link, and you slaughter loads of Gorons, and no, Gorons are like. I mean, this is like the little, this isn't like the sort of games journalistic objective side to us. I mean, they're just a skin. This is like the 3-year-old, sorry, not the 3-year-old, like the 13-year-old that played Ocarina of Time and got Darunia to dance. Like, I don't want to kill Darunia. Darunia's awesome. I don't want to slay Gorons. Like, I felt guilty playing that level.
Yeah, we got into the 4 digits of killing those.
Yeah, and that's like that annoyed us. And like, I mean, it's as much as it's a lovely, lovely homage to the Zelda universe most of the time, but then sometimes it kind of I don't know how to say it. Like it takes it detracts from it, and no, it doesn't detract. It sort of just uses it wrong,
right?
And just alienates the fans that it's clearly targeting.
Yeah, so with a sort of grain of salt for my answer to that, if I was playing this on my own, there would be no chance that this would have made a Zelda fan out of me. I would have been obviously very confused about who the hell most of these characters were, why everything was going on, and as we've already discussed, the fanfic story kind of, well, it makes no sense to someone completely caught up on the canon of the universe. To me, it would make even less sense, so it wouldn't have made a fan out of me. Playing this through with somebody who is very deeply ingrained with the canon and can explain a lot of things about it, in particular, the reasons why certain homages are very cool or interesting.
Perfect example of when it the example of when it does wrong is obviously slaying Gorons and stuff, just because they need you to kill a different enemy so that it doesn't get stale. The example of when it did it absolutely amazingly right, the chicken.
Oh god, the chicken.
Because
the chicken.
as any Zelda fan will know, don't attack the chickens. Jamie's never played Zelda before, so when he found a chicken, he, like the sociopath he is, decided to murder the hell out of it.
Like, it was just a chicken in a temple, and it just had a health bar above it. So I assumed it was a killable mob. Daniel, seeing this,
didn't say anything.
Yeah, didn't say nothing, just looked at me, smile on my face as I went to attack the chicken, and then the chicken died. And I was like, oh, that was weird, whatever. Went off to do a thing, and then suddenly a little bar came up that was like...
it's counter-attacking its massive forces.
Yeah, and suddenly... chickens everywhere!
Yeah.
Like hundreds upon hundreds of chickens murdering the ever-loving hell out of me.
And that was brilliant. that was fantastic. That, like, really put me a smile on my face as a Zelda fan. But, like, there's only so much you can, write on nostalgia alone and write on references alone. And then, as I say, like, it did stuff wrong. Like, I've just thought of another example where it did stuff wrong. The Majora's Mask moon. Like, I know it didn't mean much to you, but there's a sequence in the game where you pull the moon down on an enemy. The first time it happens, it's a cutscene, and it's kind of cool because you're not expecting it. It's like, oh, look, it's the Majora's Mask moon. Then after that, it just becomes like a normal attack.
Yeah, there's an upgrade you can get for the hook shot. And if you hook shot an enemy with the upgraded hook shot, you'll like grab onto the enemy, zoom towards them, jump off them, and then just hook shot a little tiny Majora's Mask moon.
Yeah, it's the Majora's
Mask Moon, just a little tiny version of it, just down onto the enemy, and it'll cause a little explosion, kill a couple of little mobs, harm like a important one, and like to me, that like I thought that was quite cool. I was like, at any point I can drag a moon onto the enemy,
but to me it was kind of irritating, because like I mean, Majora's Mask is actually my favorite Zelda game, joint first with Link to the Past. Sorry to all the massive Ocarina of Time fans out there, because I know that's generally considered the best one, but Majora's Mask is my personal favourite. And the idea that I could just like pull the moon on a whim, to me showed like how little effort they'd kind of put into appeasing the fans. It was kind of like, oh, if we stick this skin on, everybody will be like, oh, that'll make it okay. You know what I mean? Because everybody will be like, oh, it's from Majora's Mask, that's well cool. But it's like, if anybody... You know, anybody who's played Majora's Mask would know that the second the moon crashes into the world, it destroys the entire planet and game over. And then like, oh, I can just use that as a weapon now. It felt very sort of like the developers were just like, oh, skin it with anything Zelda and they'll buy it. You know what I mean? Like without any sort of reference to what it actually meant in the original game.
So yeah, going back to the original point, the game itself has not made a Zelda fan of me. Daniel, both discussing the flaws and like the homages, the great points that it's done well, and the flaws and why they're flaws in the game, has made me a lot more interested in the Zelda series than I was before I played this game. So you can technically attribute maybe a tiny little percentage of my interest in Zelda to this game, but mostly it's come from the enthusiasm of someone very ingrained in the series that's made me now interested in playing it.
I mean, I think that's a good thing, because like it is like, I mean, I've been nagging you to play Zelda for a good few years now,
God,
and it's never done anything for you. But now playing the game like has actually sort of enticed you. And I mean, if it's a jump on point for you to play like the main franchise, that's great, because like any way we can get more exposure. I mean, it's already a popular game, but like everybody needs to play it. Like in my opinion, maybe I'm just biased
a little bit,
because like I'm currently looking over here as I'm talking at the Zelda framed canvas print I have on the wall, so maybe I'm somewhat biased, but anything that gets more people to play the main series is good by me. And if that's what it can do, you know what I mean? I've got a friend who is a big fan of Zelda, and he absolutely hated even the idea of this game, because he hated Dynasty Warriors. I mean, he even had this joke that he would never, like, the idea of a handheld Dynasty Warriors terrified him, because he had nightmares where he was playing it on the toilet and he couldn't avoid the shit either way. Like that was his joke about how bad the Dynasty Warriors franchise is. So he hated it and he loathed this idea. But he has a son, and his son's very young, and he's almost enticed to buy this because he's excited by the prospect that he has a Zelda game that he can play with his son.
Right.
And I think there's something to be said about that. Still not a good game though.
Right.
Yeah. Ultimately,
it's Dynasty Warriors. It comes along with all the flaws and missteps that I anyway feel that those games sort of always make. They're very cathartic, short burst games that you play. Like, well, you sort of know exactly what you're in for when you can say 5 minutes in you've killed 1,000 people.
Yeah,
you know what you're in for. It's and that to me isn't very enticing.
I think we probably suffered more through it though because we played it all in one big go.
Yeah, that's definitely not how you should play.
The first 5 minutes I really enjoyed.
Well, yeah.
The 7th hour, not so much. And
so maybe again, take what we're saying potentially with another grain of salt.
Yeah, because if you're going to play it in like 30 minutes bouts, maybe you'll enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of times where even in sort of the 7th hour, when me and you, anytime we potentially unlocked a new character, there was a little part of us excited to see how that character would act. I mean, there was always that little tiny part of then disappointment where you know, ooh, can't wait to see what their moves are. Oh, well, it's just pressing the same 5 buttons over and over, and they're just going to do the same sort of things.
But again, it was the presentation. Like, you were excited to see the custom animations on the special moves, because they're cool. There's no denying they're absolutely cool. But I think on that note, we can kind of wrap it up, because we've been talking nearly an hour now. But yeah, basically, I would say if you're a Zelda fan, don't get it, but do if it's really cheap. But yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. And guess from a non-Zelda fan's perspective, don't get it. But if you know somebody who's really into Zelda and they have it, potentially play through it with them because you could get a lot of enjoyment and maybe even an interest in the series out of it, if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah. And obviously, this means something for Nintendo, which is kind of not sure what yet.
No.
Hopefully it's a good thing.
Hopefully, yes.
And that's pretty much all we got to say on this. So,
for Geeky Glasses TV, I've been Big G Jamie.
And I've been the Ginger Geek. And this has been Two Geeks Game, where two geeks get together, game, and talk about stuff. This has been Hyrule Warriors, a bit of a review, and what it means for Nintendo. Next time, who knows?
Thanks for sticking with us this long, we appreciate it.
And we'll see you guys next time.